What's up, everybody? Justin Soderberg here, the Maine State of Mind podcast. Today's guest is Mike Riley from 98.5 The Sports Hub, as well as a public address announcer for both the New England Revolution and the MLS, and does marketing PA announcing for the New England Patriots of the New England NFL, as well as some other various things he does around the around the New England for sports. He has got a great voice for voiceovers and for public address announcing, and that's why he does it. He's a good friend of mine, Sarge, as he's also known by, and I used to work together when we were at the Spinners. He did the public address announcing for the Lowell Spinners, the small team in Lowell, Massachusetts. That was the minor league affiliate of the Boston Red Sox. So we talked a little bit about that, talked a little bit about just various sports things, fun things about being in the media, in sports media, as well as various other topics. But so happy that Mike was able to join us today and talk. He's also a pro wrestling fan and loves to cover pro wrestling. So we talked a little bit about that. But yeah, Mike's a great guy. We go back a little ways. It was a great conversation. He'll be back on at some point in the future, but episode 46, he decided to come on and talk to me this week. Please like, subscribe, follow us on all the social media platforms, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on YouTube. Visit our website, themainstateofmind.com. We love hearing from you guys. We love the support. We love the respect. So here's episode 46 with Mike Sarge Riley of 98.5 The Sports Hub and PA announcing, coming at you right now. Thanks, everybody. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, I'm great, Justin. Thanks for having me here today. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, man. Great. This releases on a Wednesday, but a great hockey game this weekend too, huh? UMass winning the championship.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm really happy that they did win because a couple of years ago when they went to the national title, they fell short, and it's always nice to see someone from Hockey East to win there. I mean, you had 3 Minnesota teams in the Frozen Four, so the odds of them winning were pretty high. But here's little old UMass right there, a state school. So congratulations, Minutemen. Can't go wrong there. Good
Absolutely.
team.
I mean, it was a happy, happy, sad moment. Happy, like to me, because being a UMass Lowell fan, obviously would have rather see that Lowell part on the end of their name.
Right.
But when you go down to it and you see the championship, and there's a Hockey East school, and you always root for that Hockey East school, and to see someone win their first ever was really cool. I was working my day job at Orner Brewing Company when I had it on the TV, and I was watching it as I'm going, and I'm like, this is not even a game.
Yeah,
Like,
it was a blowout.
They handed them the game. Yeah. So
yeah,
it was cool. I mean, so Mike and I know each other for a number of years now from sports, really. I mean, we met each other when I was covering UMass Lowell and I was covering the Spinners.
Yep.
But it started at the Spinners, really. But Mike
Right.
likes to talk for a living. He likes to talk a lot, which is cool because I like to talk a lot too. But now he can actually get paid for it. So that's the benefit of it too, is that getting paid to talk is pretty sweet, huh?
That's it, and you follow your passion and you have that drive to do something there and parlay it into a little lucrative deal. It's not a bad thing at all, Justin. You really got to love what you do, and that's the most important thing here.
You don't work a day in your life if you love your job. Isn't that the saying? Something along those lines.
You couldn't have said it better. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, like I was just talking to you about it. I was up until let's see, probably about 2 this morning, because I had WrestleMania and we had to cover that. That was a whole weekend event. Excuse me. That was a whole weekend event with WrestleMania, and it was a 2-night affair. We had a post show up until 2. You just and like I'm thinking to myself yesterday, how am I not exhausted? But I just had that drive in me to do it, and also like that adrenaline, like to keep going. It was so much fun. I know I'm going to crash at like 7 o'clock tonight, but it was just I love what I do, and I'm actually getting ready to bang out another podcast after this for the sports station 95 The Sports Hub in a little bit.
It's funny too, because I always said that if someone asked me something, like they're talking about sports games and stuff like that, I'm like, have you ever been a writer or a journalist or some sort of media member for either a doubleheader baseball game or when I covered the UFC once or twice, it was like that's an endeavor. Like you show up at the UFC events at like 2:00 in the afternoon to get some pre stuff done, set up your spot on the media row, and you watch all the fights, and then the press conferences are at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Then you got to get back to the hotel. I'm like, that's an endeavor. Like that's not like
Oh,
that's not the
sure.
simple like show
Yeah.
up on the time of one fight and if someone buys the pay-per-view, they're watching that one fight or whatever at the end of the night. No, I've been there since 2 o'clock in the morning. I was there for 12 hours covering these things. So
Yeah.
yes, it is tiring, but I feel like there's this adrenaline that gets you going. And then once you get back to your hotel room or your house or your apartment, then you just crash.
Where'd you cover UFC, by the way? I'm kind of
I
curious.
covered 2 at the Garden, and then one in Bangor.
Oh,
When
cool.
because Dana White's from Herman, or like spent some time in Herman, Maine,
Right.
which is right outside Bangor, and so he brought a card up here a couple of years ago,
That's so
and
cool.
so they did it at because they had just renovated the Cross Insurance Arena in Bangor,
Okay.
which right now is actually a COVID vaccination site.
Oh, yeah.
But right,
Then
but back then it was the smallest. It might have been the smallest since they were like a Zuffa, like the big card. Like obviously they did original cards were very, very small way
sure.
back in the day. But
Right.
you're talking it must have been 20 years since it did a arena this small. Like there was like I want to say like less than 6,000 people there.
Yeah, but you know what? Those
Uh
are the best ones for something like that, UFC, and also even for wrestling all the time. Like
mm,
I'd love going to, the Songus or
yep.
even Providence Civic Center in Worcester Centrum, DC.
Mhm.
Those small ones for UFC wrestling, it's the best because you're right on top of the action. The acoustics in the building are fantastic, and it's just the sight lines too. That's the
Yep.
best part. It's unbelievable. So that sounds like a great show.
It was fun too because we always say we're lucky in the media when we were in media. So you're still in there. I have stepped away, and now in the beer industry, I do this on the side. But like the when you're sitting on the sidelines of some sporting event, sometimes you get the ninth floor at the Garden is a cool view, but
Yes,
far away. Like
it
you're
is.
not involved in the game at all. Like you're not right up on the
No.
glass and all that stuff. When you're covering hockey at like a college hockey arena, you're not again up on the glass. You're a little further away, still good views and stuff like that.
Yep.
Um, but like when you're covering or like the Patriots, for an example, you're far away and
Yeah.
you're not right
It's
up against these things. But on the UFC, you're next to really someone who paid thousands of dollars for their ticket.
They
Like
put you
you're
right there.
right there. Like you can
Mhm.
almost touch the octagon. And so that's one of the coolest things I will say about those fights is that I did 3 of them and I could have 3 times that I would never have been able to afford a ticket
Ah.
to sit that close. And it's just one of the best experiences of my life. The only one I say is more close and intimate is PGA Tour
Oh, yeah,
because
you're
you're like
right there.
right there.
Yeah. Yep,
Um,
yep. If you have the ropes pass or
yep,
and
yep.
and the weird thing too with golf, I mean, okay, so from being on in the radio side of things, or reporting for television, whatever, if you're there for golf, you usually, radio especially, you have to do it as it's going on play by
Mhm.
play. You got to wait until after it's done. Or even let me rephrase that there. Let me rephrase that. For golf, you have to do it so darn quietly while the ball is going in there. I've seen these guys do it while the ball's on the green or whatever, the golf ball is being shot there. Television, you have the gift of a picture.
Yep.
Radio, it's like super whispering and so forth. It's bizarre, but it's just really, it's so cool to have that ropes pass. You're right there with the guys, and it's really amazing. And yeah, some of the best things in the world to see that right there, to be front row and center with them the whole time, 18 holes for 4 days straight. It's pretty darn awesome.
I did 2 golf events, and I did so thinking back on it, I always talk to people, and I can't wait to just like tell people in the future about all of the experiences I've gotten in sports media
Yep.
over the years. And one of the things that some people always ask me, why'd you step away? I do miss that, being there. But I moved to Maine, and there's one really opportunity in Maine to cover is UMaine hockey.
Oh
That's
yeah.
about it. Everything else, I have to travel a significant distance to get to. So this
Yep.
at this point, whenever I would like cover, I don't know, at Amherst, UMass Minuteman hockey game, that
Right.
was a commitment to go to.
Sure.
Every game that wasn't a UMaine home game would have been a commitment to go to. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to go into the beer industry. I'm going to step away from the media department, like media, and just watch it. But I did realize that when you step away from it, you don't watch as many sports anymore.
No, you don't. It's
It-
true. Yeah.
it's sad. So like I was like
Yeah.
I talked to some people, and like I talked to Mike McMahon recently on
Mhm.
here from College Hockey News and his the Mac report. And we just talked about how like I didn't watch the hockey season this much as I thought I would over the past couple of years for college hockey, and I miss it. And then when UMass was in the Frozen Four and all that stuff, I got to watch a little bit more games.
Yep.
And I was like, I get that itch. I really want to get back. I want to get back, rinkside,
Yeah.
and see the games. But yeah, it's just one of those things when you step away from media. And it's one of those things that if I stayed in Massachusetts, is all likelihood still to this day, I'd be sitting next to you at arenas,
Right.
in places and watching games and doing that stuff because I would have had the access to it. Now it's not. To me, it's now when we're talking via Zoom right now because I'm not close enough to you to actually do this in person. Plus, we're being safe in that
Yeah,
aspect too. But yeah,
that's the beauty of the pandemic here. One of the best things that ever came out of it was the boom of Zoom.
yes,
And I hate when people say, "Oh, I'm Zoom fatigued and
yeah,
I'm zoomed out." It's like, well, where else are you going to go? I mean, you
mm-hmm.
want to go somewhere and have a super spreader? Go ahead, all the
Yeah,
power to you. But you're not helping everyone else out here.
no,
And you know what? I think this is going to be a normal thing here on out
mm-hmm.
for businesses, for companies. Why send someone cross country to cut a deal? To do that when you could just set up a Zoom meeting. It makes
One year subscription to Zoom is cheaper than a plane ticket to fly that person out to that.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you got to go over there, fire them cross country in
Yeah,
person, I get it. Or
yeah,
shut down an office. That makes sense. But for something else, though, no, this is going to be the new trend here. And also, people working from home.
yeah.
You're probably going to see a big shift in that from going to the office, driving, morning commute, home commute, and so forth, decline for
Yeah.
traffic and everything. Not that we haven't seen that the last year, but it's going to continue.
And you guys were able to do it at the Sports Hub too. Having your hosts of your shows be able to be radioed in and do that remote part of it. And it became different. Think about it would have been way easier years ago before the simulcast on TV, whereas you didn't worry about it. Yeah, you just set up a remote thing like you remote in a TV radio show, right? I mean, you just set it up and um, you know, set up the equipment and put your
Yep.
headphones on or do a remote. Because I did that when I was when UMass Lowell was in their first NCAA Hockey East tournament at the Garden. I was on ESPN New Hampshire for the remote at the pregame show across the street,
Okay.
and it was easy. Just set up the remote. Not easy, but like easier. You need some
Right.
internet. You put the remote up. You got it all set.
That's it.
Nowadays,
Boom.
you got to have the video chat and all that stuff because
Right.
there's a simulcast and people want to see these people's faces. So
Right.
when you watch Felger and Maz in the afternoon and Felger's at home and
Right.
Maz is in the studio right now, that kind of stuff is like it's so much easier now.
Right.
Internet speeds are faster,
Oh,
video
much
quality
faster.
is better, and then the
Yep.
opportunity to have things like Zoom or other, your Cisco's and all the other companies that make these like video chat things make it way easier
Absolutely.
nowadays. So
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, that's excuse me, I got a frog in my throat here,
yeah.
Justin. Too much talking over the weekend. No, but yeah, no, and that's exactly it. I mean, you can call in 6 easy and just have the video ready to go, boom, instead of traveling in there. Even a snow day, right? You could just do it right from home, or a
Yep.
hurricane, God forbid. So it's a perfect scenario right there, and that's just how it's going to be. I think it's going to be very common for the whole world. The world really changed in a good way for the most part, and for healthier precautions. But for technology and communication, it's a big thing.
And I talked about 95 the sports side, but we met when you were doing. I mean, you were mainly doing Lowell Spinners PA stuff, right? When I met you, not mainly, but you were
Yeah.
doing pretty much every game. Is that every home
So
game?
yeah, I did the Lowell Spinners from 2014. I'm sorry, 2012 until 2014. So 3 seasons there. And I've been doing public address announcing since high school.
Yeah.
I started and I went to Needham High School and did the football, the basketball, hockey, and I did the public access stuff too. So some play by play with that as well. But then I my real first big PA job was the Brockton Rocks.
Okay.
Um, and I did that from 2009 to 2011. And the first season with the Rocks there in 2009, this was during the economy crisis. And a lot of people were not spending money there. So the Rocks were trying to really take advantage of a bad economy,
Mm.
lower their ticket prices, but it kind of fell flat in their face because they were losing money, lowering the prices.
Yeah.
And what also didn't help them too, out of their control, Mother Nature, it was rain like every day that summer. So we had rain delays and people just weren't going out to the games. It was bad. New ownership came in. they did the best they could. And then in 2011, they tried to really spark things up. They brought Bill Buckner in as the manager. So that was really an interesting thing. But, unfortunately here, Bill Buckner is still kind of like,
Yes.
a goat, not a Tom Brady goat, like
Yeah.
a goat though. But it was all forgiven after they won the World Series. It just didn't
Yeah.
really catch on. So then I went to the Spinners. I took that opportunity in 2012. Um, that same year, I had a tryout with the Red Sox, and I was one of the finalists for that. And the Spinners were behind me on that there, and I was one of the 20 finalists there for the Red Sox. And you know what? It was a great opportunity, but it just didn't. I didn't get it, and I was very lucky to stay with the Little Spinners for 3 good seasons, and it got to meet people like you, Justin, and
Yeah, I know.
you know,
Seriously, I think you probably announced. I sponsored when I had Mill City Sports. I did sponsor
yes,
an event,
I
and I threw a first pitch out. So I think you probably announced that. I mean,
yep, I remember that. Yep,
yeah, I
and
still have
many
that first
times.
pitch ball in the living room of my house.
So yeah, yeah, guys like you, Johnny Good,
Yep,
Johnny Boswell, like I said, Matt Stein,
yep.
some really good people, and who I'm still, stay in contact with today. Um, so yeah, I did the Spinners, and then for 3 seasons, and when I did my last season there, that's when I had just signed on with the Sports Hub, and that was at a time where I was doing radio full time.
Hmm.
Um, so I had to surrender the Spinners the following year in 2015. It was just too much of a commitment. And as you know, like we were talking about with the UFC there, being there for 10 hours, it's almost the same thing as baseball. It's you got to be
Yeah,
there 2 hours before first pitch. You got to get the lineups, you got to get the pronunciations. You could have a rain delay, you could have extra innings. It just it's a commitment. So it was too much, and I was very busy with the Sports Hub, and also I was doing WBZ radio.
hmm,
But now it's interesting how things go full circle because I'm only doing radio part time now, and public address announcing also part time too. As you know, it's seasonal, but
yep.
I have my own business now with the sports memorabilia company and been very busy with that for fundraising. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Just radio part time and also public address announcing still, which I love. I love doing that, and it's just so much fun.
Where are you doing it now?
So right now, I'm the Revolution public address announcer at Gillette Stadium, and for the Patriots as well, for the marketing for the Patriots. However, this past year, I don't know if you heard, Justin, there was no crowd at Gillette Stadium, right? Yeah, there was no
It,
crowd there.
and that's not because the Patriots are a bad team this year.
Right. And you know what? It was probably the best year to not
To
have a
have no
crowd there.
crowds.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're going to be okay this year, though. They're
Yeah,
back,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know? But what happened, the marketing PA is you introduce the national anthem, you do reads during television timeouts. You say goodbye at the end. It's a really like a master of ceremony thing. It's
Hmm.
awesome. And I fell into that because it was a sad situation in the fall of 2019. I had just accepted the Revolution public address announcing position after doing a couple of games for them that prior season. And I was like, all right, that's awesome. So I did that. And then there was a game. Um, I had just had a tryout with the Bruins actually in October 2019. And I really, really wanted that Bruins job. And the Patriots needed someone to fill in to do the marketing public address announcing for the Cleveland Browns game late October 2019. So the gentleman who had done it was in the hospital, and they asked me the Thursday before. They're like, "Hey, we heard you did the Bruins, did a great job. We know you're doing the Revs, but we need someone for the Sunday. Can you do it?" I'm like, "I'm there, yeah."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Great, we'll FedEx your parking pass. Be here." It was a 1 o'clock game, so be here by 10 a.m. And I'm like, "Beautiful. I'll see you then." So 10 o'clock, park, go in there, and I had been in the media booth at Gillette
Yeah.
Stadium before, so I've seen all that. But just to actually be behind the microphone up top was like, wow, this is great. Um, and it's where it was for a Patriots game.
Yep.
Okay, so I've done Revolution and high school football there, but it was a real whole feel for it. Did the game. Bill Belichick got his 200th career win, so it was really cool to see that. The Patriots were away the following week. They were back home the week after that against the Dallas Cowboys. The gentleman who still was his job there, he was still in the hospital. So I said, Mike, need you again. I'm like, I'm there, no problem.
Yep.
Did the game. And then a week later, unfortunately, passed away. So they said, we need you to do this the remainder of the season. I'm like, yeah, I felt awful,
Yeah.
like everyone did, but yeah, I'm just happy to step up. Happy to do my part and be a team player. And so this year, so I did Tom Brady's last game with the Patriots. I
Hmm.
will, and I saw his last win with the Patriots too against Buffalo, and that was a spiral there in 2019. What happened there at the end? But um, it's and as sad as that was there with the situation, it's almost sometimes you have to be in the right place, right time, or
Yep.
whatnot, and just it was a team player situation there, and that's what I'm doing. So this year, like I said, long story short, no crowd. There was no need to have ads read in between. So what they did, which was very nice of the Patriots, um, the Patriots said to me, "Listen, we your position is not going to happen in 2020. But we want to do is we want to have you sit in the down and distance with the PA announcer, who is John Rook, a really great guy. John's also the play-by-play voice for Providence men's basketball, and just a real gentleman, real good guy. So the plan was for me to sit with him for the first 4 games, and then I was going to do the down and distance for the last 4 games, which I ended up doing. So I did the Baltimore Ravens game on Sunday Night Football. I actually, I had COVID, so I had to miss the Arizona Cardinals game. But then I did the Jets game, the final one, and the Buffalo game on that Monday night there. Again, no crowd, but you're doing all this Newton's pass complete to Edelman first down and
Yep.
all that stuff right there. So I'm essentially his backup now. They gave me the situation right there in those 3 games I did, and it's still something that like I have to pinch myself every time I walk in there, right?
Yeah, and it's one of those things I always try to say is 2020, the past 14 months, COVID's no joke. It's been serious. We've lost, 500,000 people in this world, or in this country. It's no joke. But what I will say is I always like to try to talk to people about silver linings. And the silver linings to me is, there's certain things that have happened in this 2020 or the past 14 months or so that we have to look back and go, yeah, that's awesome. I can't believe I got that opportunity. And again, because of COVID, you were
Yep.
able to get the opportunity to do something that likely you maybe down the road, but maybe it got sped up for you because of the fact that you didn't have a position
Yeah.
in 2020 due to the COVID. But you were able to slide in there and say, "Hey, we want to teach you the backup," and you have that backup opportunity. It's also good to have someone who knows how to do it. So just in case someone gets sick,
Exactly.
I've always said
Exactly.
that every job I've ever had, there's times where it's like, you know, something happens to the person who's the only person who knows how to do that, and then now they're like, "Oh crap, now what do we do?"
Right. Right.
so
Exactly. Exactly.
but yeah,
Yeah.
silver linings. You got the opportunity, you took it and you seized it, and maybe down the road other positions open up
Yeah, and
to do
and
more.
I
And
and you know what, Justin? It's people ask me about it all the time, and it really is a dream come true. It's a
mhm,
dream job. I love it, and the Revolution have been so good to me. Like, here's the thing too. So last year, I'll never forget this. My first ever Revolution game. It was Saturday, March 7th, 2020. You know where this is going.
mhm, mhm,
So the week going into it, that Monday, um, what was it, February 28th or March
yep,
1st, whatever it was right there. We're ready to go. And like they're sending me some scripts and everything. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, the pandemic's starting to pick up here now. They hadn't declared it a pandemic yet,
yep,
but the virus is picking up. And they're like, so listen, MLS wants us to read these things here during the game. And it was just like we were making fun of it at the time, but obviously
yep,
now looking back at it, it's like, okay, it makes sense. So some of the reads were like, if you feel sick, please stay home. Please wash your hands at all times. Like, are we reading to a kindergartner
yeah,
here?
exactly.
Like,
Well,
but again, this was 10 days before the world changed, right? And, we just had to read it over and over. They put hand sanitizer out and everything. There was a full crowd. That was the last time Gillette Stadium had a full crowd there for
mhm,
an event, March 7th, 2020. And then, of course, Just 3 days later, the pandemic hits. MLS, suspends their season. Just like it was part of the domino effect. NBA,
Mhm.
NHL, Major League Baseball, everything, and the Revs, the season did not start up again until July, so they played without a crowd as well. But what they did do, they adapted on a welcome back tournament to get the players really loose and everything. They had a welcome back tournament in Orlando. What they did really creative for social distancing and so forth. They had a drive-in, Justin, a drive-in. People could drive onto the field at Gillette Stadium and watch the Revolution game on the jumbotron from the Orlando. It was so cool, and I have some pictures on my Instagram at Sarge 95. You can check it out. It was unbelievable, filled, and we had 3 of those there, and that was just so good. It was a good feeling to be back
Yeah.
behind a microphone, because for 3 months it's like you got that ripped away from you, um, and just so many questions with this whole virus and everything too, and for the safety of others. But that was a really good step in the right direction back to some sort of normalcy.
And it's something that people don't think about. I mean, in this whole pandemic, you think about certain things, but you don't think about like the PA. I think about, okay, so let's think about basketball, whatever. Jason Tatum didn't play in this time because of COVID, and they shut down the NBA, and they came back with the bubble and all that stuff. But no one thinks a lot of times about the people who work for the arena, the people who work in the parking, the people who do the PA announcing, the people who
Yep.
work in the media, the press box, not the media potentially coming in, but just there's also someone who runs the press box area, and all that stuff. So all that stuff stopped too. So it wasn't just that these professional athletes didn't get to play and we didn't have fans in the stadiums, but for a little while there was people who didn't get to work because they're the facilitators to the actual, bigger picture, the big game, the arena, like I said, and all the way down to the people who do parking, the police officers who direct traffic
Yep.
outside on the streets, outside of Gillette Stadium or the Garden or whoever. So it's been a crazy year in sports, but and it's one of those things that Mike McMahon was talking to me about Merrimack College, that he was covering games at, was it Lawler Arena, and he
Ball
was
Arena, yeah.
in their blue, was it the blue lounge, whatever the lounge is up
Oh
top
yeah.
that you can eat in, and
Yeah.
he had like a whole, he was like in that area, but he was in one of the suites because they didn't have fans there. He had his own suite
Ah,
to sit in. It was like
right.
he had this, it's like he could like relax and sit back, and it was
Right.
like he was like almost don't want to have crowds anymore because
Well, and yeah, even like going to the Patriots this year too, Justin. I mean, I was home in 15 minutes after a
yeah,
game, right?
yes,
I mean, normal time, you're home about 2 hours after with traffic out of Gillette Stadium. It's insane. Like, I remember like looking at the schedule. I'm like, oh no, Monday night game,
yep,
Buffalo. But I'm like, actually, if there's no crowd, it's not gonna be that bad. We'll be okay. Instead of being home at like 3 in the morning. So that was a good benefit for something like that right there. And actually, you could wake up, kind of roll out of bed and go, instead of being there 3 hours before. You could probably get away with a 2 hour before sort of
yep.
thing. So,
Exactly. So
yeah.
it's just a crazy year, but like it's looking forward to the future. I think some leagues, like you had mentioned, that tournament for the MLS
Yeah.
and the NBA doing a bubble and the NHL doing a sort of a bubble, and then having these things has been great. I think there's things we've adapted and things that I was like laughing because like I almost absolutely loved watching the NBA bubble more than watching the regular NBA season. There was
Oh yeah.
something about neutral courts and all this other stuff that just made it really cool to watch. And then watching a football game on TV, I don't think I noticed as much that the fans weren't there on TV. I don't know if that was just me, or maybe I was just used to it. By the time the NFL started playing this year, that I was just used to no crowds. That I
Yep.
just it didn't phase me. But I'm excited to see fans go back because that is part of the sport. I think part of the way athletes play differently.
Oh, totally.
And it's the opposite too. I feel like there were stars in NHL and in the NBA who played better in their bubbles than they do with the crowds without the pressure. But then there's other stars that really kind of flopped because they feed off the crowd, they feed off that thing, and they can't wait for that to come back too.
Right. And Justin, I know you asked me what else I'm doing. I'm also doing Providence men's hockey public
Okay.
address announcing too. That's another one I'm doing. And yeah, they had no crowd this year. So that was really, and that the Schneider Arena is a small one too. So you're right on top of everyone. So yeah, no crowd there. They feed off of that. Big difference. But I'm a big pro wrestling fan too,
Yep.
Justin, as I just mentioned before. And WrestleMania was this past weekend, and WrestleMania was in front of a live crowd. It was at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium, Raymond James Stadium, where
Yep.
the Super Bowl was played this year too. Um, this guy by the name of Tom Brady that won, in case you didn't know.
Who?
But yeah, exactly, yeah. For the first time in over a year, WWE had a live audience, 25,000 people both nights, obviously spread out and everything, but it was really cool to see that live crowd behind the announcer's
Hmm.
desk, and actually getting organic reaction from the audience, because right now they're doing their Monday Night Raws and their Friday Night SmackDowns in empty stadiums. But what they have this thing called a Thunderdome, and it's just LED screens. And you and I, so you could be set up on Zoom watching your faces right there,
Yeah.
but it's not the same
The
though.
same.
So right, it's not, it's all virtual. But this is really a good, hopefully a good step in the right direction. Have that crowd, and you just saw it. You
Yep.
could see them feed off of it right there. Instant reaction, getting the boos, the cheers, really good stuff.
And this is not me saying anything bad about pro wrestling and the point where I'm relating it to being fake. But my point is, when I say this statement here, it would be like a play or a performance or a music performance playing to an empty arena.
Yeah,
I mean, there is obviously people in the pro wrestling are athletes, and they're doing something that I can't do. It is a sport, but I'm saying is that like it is one of those things that they do the things they do to get the reaction. They're
yeah,
not there to just like it's not like you're going into a studio and recording an album. This is like you're there to actually perform in front of people, and you can't do that at the time. But there's contracts, there's things to do. You have to put these on.
yep,
Like, there's TV contracts, whereas like you mentioned, the Wednesday nights and the Friday nights, there's
right,
slots those need to play. There's things you can't stop doing to
right.
do this. So
Well,
in
it's
the NBA, in the bubble, they did the screen thing too, and you could
right,
buy a cutout in the Major League Baseball and
right.
all that
And
stuff too. So
as you know, Justin, in the end, it's money that makes the world go round and
mhm.
round, right? And that's a big thing right there. So yeah.
But yeah, it's I can't wait for that to happen because like I don't have an opportunity right now, and I'm having a baby boy in June, so I don't
All
think I'll
right,
be doing it.
congratulations.
Thank you,
That's
sir.
awesome.
But I'm not looking that I'm probably gonna do anything this. I'm not gonna go to a Red Sox game. I think this summer. I don't think I'll be in the fall even. Maybe next winter going to a Red Sox or going to a Celtics game or a Bruins game. But I just don't see myself going to an arena in the next 6 months or so, a year.
Yep.
But I'm looking forward to seeing that on TV. There's when there's a timeout and they go to commercial, they usually try to focus on someone in the crowd or something like that. And there's nothing there.
Yep.
It's a lot different to have the experience at home too. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And the idea that, you know, I don't like the crowd being involved as much, but
Yep.
I like those
Yep.
clips
No,
when a,
I hear you, man.
when a
I
player
hear you,
jumps in the
man.
crowd and it's not just a
Right.
chair there or something.
Right,
But
right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm really happy to hear that with you get a little one on the way, Justin.
yeah, I'm
That's great
excited.
news.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to force him into a sport. No, just kidding. I'm
Well,
excited for him to be the athlete I wasn't.
you better take care of him now, because he's gonna have to take care of you down the line. So, all right, you know.
Well, just say like like I love basketball, so I love hockey, so I want to say, hey, this is something you should like. But if he says no, cool. I don't want to be the parent who's forcing him into becoming a professional athlete because it's something that
Mhm.
I wanted all my life, but I never got. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person who does that. That father you
Right,
see that's like the kid's miserable playing baseball, but he's
right,
loving it because he wanted to play baseball of his life and he didn't.
right.
But you also want the best for your kids. So
Absolutely.
if you got a kid that really wants to play basketball, you want him to be an NBA or WNBA
Of
star. Like,
course.
why wouldn't you want that?
Right.
But you don't want to force him into it because you want that.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So that would
Hey,
be the
if
fun balance. But
you can get him a scholarship, Justin.
oh, see, there
That's
you
the
go.
deal, man,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, get that scholarship, baby.
And like I was talking to someone else, get them a scholarship to play, a sport in college or whatever, and then maybe they go
Yeah,
on to coach a team,
right,
or be a trainer, or do media, or
right.
something, because there's
Anything.
definitely opportunities out there
That's it.
for that. But and then the other part about it is I might have a boy that doesn't like sports at all,
Yeah, and there's nothing
and
wrong with that.
I
Yeah.
have to live with that, and that's okay with me,
You know what,
and I'm
Justin?
sure.
The most important thing my parents always said, people always ask, because I'm the oldest of three.
Okay, yeah.
And I remember people asking all the time, my two younger brothers were going to be born, and they're always like, what do you want? Do you want a brother or a sister? And I was like, I don't really care. I just remember my parents always said, like, as long as it's healthy. That's
Mhm.
all they said all the time. And that's pretty important. If we can, if it's healthy, that's what I really care for the most.
and it's just, yeah, I can't wait. So we're excited. June 6th is the date.
All
Likely, obviously,
right.
won't be born on that date, but like
Yeah.
somewhere around there, and we'll have the summer. And I'm glad we got my restaurant open and
Well, I
going
gotta.
so that I get past that stress. So now I can just be
Yeah.
focused on the stress of having the baby
I
and
gotta.
so on. So
I gotta come up and check out your restaurant, man.
yeah,
What do
gotta
you?
definitely.
What do you serve there?
We have we do a lot of burgers, fish tacos, like street. I would say like street food, like stuff you get out of a food truck, but out of a
Okay.
kitchen. And
Yep.
we are a brewery, so we've got 24 draft lines of our beer on and other people's beer on.
So you own
Great.
this?
I'm a general manager, so I don't
Ju-
own it, but I'm a general
Okay, but that's
manager.
awesome though. Good for
Yep.
you. And what's the
Yes.
name of it?
Orno Brewing Company.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Orno
tell you
Brewing
what,
Company.
Justin. When you tweet this out, this
Yeah.
podcast,
Yes.
I will not only retweet it, but I'm gonna quote tweet it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say, go see Justin at the Orno Brewing Company.
Yep. Yep.
Help you out with that.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Thanks, man.
yeah,
It's great. We're very
no,
happy.
of course,
We're
dude.
like 10 minutes, like 7 minutes from the University of Maine.
Oh,
So it's really
what a
cool. Like
gold mine.
pre-hockey game crowd, post-hockey game
Yep,
crowd, football crowd,
yep.
all that stuff. We watched. We had the TV on Saturday watching Swayman in goal.
Nice.
Who was a UMaine hockey player, and
Yep.
he's a big OBC fan, so he loves our beer. He
Oh, by the
messages
way,
us, and we're like, yeah. So
and very sad about
yes.
Red Gendron,
Mhm.
the head coach there. Very sad.
That was a rough day, and I think in around the world, but like because it wasn't in the morning time we found out about what Prince
DMX.
and then DMX
Yep.
the what's I
Prince
can't
Philip.
think of Prince
Prince Philip.
Philip.
Yep.
DMX was like it was like early in the morning was Prince Philip, then like noontime was DMX, and then at
Yep.
like 3 o'clock in the afternoon we found out about Coach Red Gendron at UMaine, and it was just like wow,
Unfor-
like one day of all this
yeah.
stuff.
Unfortunately, Justin, they say things come in threes, right?
Yeah, and it's like
You know,
for anybody who lives in Maine and was a fan of, England
you're right.
rap music from the '90s and UMaine hockey, it was a very bad day for you.
Tough one.
But
Yeah.
you know what? UMaine's resilience. I mean, it's not the first time they've dealt with the death of a coach.
Yeah.
And so
Sean
it's
Walsh, right?
yeah, yep. And so I think they're resilient. I think they almost somewhat can feed off of this, and whoever takes the place, it's gonna be tough. I mean, the difference is in all right, rest in peace, Red Gendron. Is the team was struggling.
Yeah.
They weren't the epitome of the Paul Koreas playing for
No.
UMaine. So the little difference is that Sean Walsh was an extremely successful coach at UMaine,
Right.
and anybody who took his spot and filled his shoes, they compared him to him. I don't think many coaches that are coming in right now, people are going to compare him to Red Gendron,
Right.
that person. But like,
Right.
it's still you were replacing someone who passed away, who didn't quit
Oh,
the job or get fired,
yeah.
and it's
I
a tough
mean,
job to fill. So
yeah. And you know what, Justin? I mean, I'd actually just I lost my dad less than a year ago, and
mhm,
it's been a very difficult year. He was 66.
mhm.
So when I heard Red Gendron 63, it's like it kind of hits home like sudden. My father was sudden too. So something like that in that same age range, it's like, oh gosh, terrible.
And we
So
were
it's
just
like,
talking about the masters at work. So like so I'm the general manager, and I have a tasting room manager, is what we call her. She's like just below me.
mhm,
She runs like the operations during when we're open.
yep,
And we had the masters on, and she's just like she was talking about, what do they get? We asked her, what do they think they get paid? And she's like $19,000. I go, no, good one there. Yeah, the winner of the masters gets paid like millions of dollars, just to let you know. And she's like,
yeah, yeah.
what? And I go, it's kind of funny about golf. It's the sport that a lot of professional athletes retire and play.
Oh yeah,
And the lucky thing about golfers is they are the ones that are actually get to play that sport that everybody retires and plays. And then literally hours later, we were talking about how Red has passed away on the golf course. And I was
hmm,
like, see, people retire from their sports or, past the sports of actually playing the sport or playing golf.
yep.
And it was just sad to hear that, he was probably doing something he loved, like playing golf.
Oh, it's awful.
But
So
also, I
sad.
mean, would you, how, is there any other way you would rather go out than playing a sport you love?
Well,
Like
I
that,
mean, yeah, if there's any silver lining, you're
yep,
right. That's a nice way to do it right there for
yep,
sure. I mean,
you
I
know,
would love to. I mean, God forbid. I hope it's a million years,
yeah.
Justin. But yeah, if I'm on the golf course and that's where I drop dead, go ahead, take me,
Yeah,
Lord.
last
I
memories on
mean,
earth is
yeah,
swinging
I
the
got
golf club is yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And but you're right. Yeah, it's just really sad though to hear that though in that situation right there. I'll tell you though, the Masters. You're just talking about that. I was actually just down in Augusta about a month ago, Justin,
Mm.
and there's a friend of mine that lives in just outside Augusta. So I was visiting them, and I parlayed it with the trip to Savannah, which is a beautiful city,
Oh,
and
beautiful. Yeah.
oh, it's awesome. And then another friend of mine's in Charleston, so I was down there too in South Carolina. But in Augusta, have you ever been?
I've never been to Augusta, no.
Okay, well, let me just paint the picture here for you. Route 1, Saugus,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know
Oh
that?
yeah. Yep.
It's just like Route 1 in Saugus, Augusta National. I'm not joking. Right outside the front gate to Augusta National is an Olive Garden
Yeah.
restaurant. I'm not joking. And it's like, wow, this is so fake, right? Like
Yep.
it's the most prestigious golf course in the world, and so hard to the toughest ticket in the world to get anything to, so elite membership and everything. There's an you anywhere. Arby's, McDonald's, Burger King. There's diners. There's Chili's, TGI Fridays, gas stations
Yep.
galore, Red Roof Inn, Marriott,
Yeah.
Holiday Inn, all right there. And then here it is, the Augusta National, right there in that same stretch. Like, are you kidding me? I was blown away. Um, and you can't even, you can go up to the gate, but you can't see anything. You
No.
just can't see. Maybe you might see like uh, a lawnmower or something, but it just storing all the equipment and
Yeah.
everything. But that's it. It's way in the back. It's all blocked off, and there's a state trooper there to even check you in at the security gate. They probably have your background check and
Yeah.
your whole life story before you even get in there. But forget it. There is no way you're going to get to Augusta National.
It's almost like when people visit the pyramids. People say the same thing. It's like you see the pictures of the pyramids, and like they're just like pristine, these beautiful old pyramids, and then you like back up a little bit, and you can like sit in a McDonald's window and look out at the pyramids, and there's
Yeah.
trash going by and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, whatever you see on the internet about the pictures of the pyramids is not the same as actually visiting the pyramids,
Right.
because it's a way different experience.
Right.
But that's funny
Right.
how you mentioned the background check. Well, at my restaurant, we had now First Lady Joe Biden doing a event up here pre-election,
Yep.
and we had a patio. We have a patio, big patio that fits about 50 people, like social distance and so on. And so
Okay.
they were trying to do this thing. It wasn't open to the public. It was this more like for other business owners in the area, like they're doing a small business kind of thing where they each got their
Mhm.
own table. It was like a hour-long event pre-election back in the summer, and so we agreed to do it on a day off. We had police stationed around and all that stuff, but I was, because I worked for the company and I was there, they had to do a background check for me with the Secret Service because of the fact that I was around the building and all that stuff. So we had Secret Service at our entire facility for almost an entire day. It was one of
Wow.
the most surreal experiences I've ever been at. Because I mean, obviously, you do background checks for jobs and all that
Oh
stuff like
yeah.
that. But like, I never thought. I mean, the background check for the Secret Service is probably the most intensive background check that I've ever gotten.
Oh God.
And
Yeah.
and the aspect of like, I didn't want to look. I was like, am I allowed to talk to these people? Can I
Right.
look at them? What am I doing? I don't want to say anything wrong. I don't want to move. I don't want to look at them wrong. I'm like,
Right.
these
Right.
people are like trained to protect these people, and I was
Oh
just
yeah.
like, it was one of the most surreal experiences ever. And even my dad's pretty strong Republican, and I texted him, he's like, that's pretty cool.
Ah.
I'm like, he's like, he was like, I'm not a big Joe Biden fan, but like,
Yeah.
he goes,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, see, it's a pretty cool experience, and I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know if I ever want to do it again,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was kind of a surreal experience. But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's one of those things that I don't think it's like a once in a lifetime thing. It's not just the fact that I got to meet the now First Lady,
Oh, that's pretty awesome, man.
but the fact that I was able also to like the Secret Service had to do a background check on me
Yeah.
to make
No.
sure I
No.
wasn't like,
Did they give you any itinerary, like to say you're all good or
no,
whatever?
they just
Or
basically, I mean, they would have said you can't come, like that person is not allowed to be
okay, they'd have you on a
around.
separate
Yeah,
list and everything. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so it
Yeah.
was like that aspect of it. And then also during I was like during the pandemic, they checked our temperatures and all that stuff
Oh yeah.
too,
Yeah.
to
Well, I
make
mean,
sure everything was safe. But
yeah, because and you know this, covering
yeah,
events and everything.
mhm,
And I mean, I love getting media passes. It's so cool,
yeah,
and have all those lanyards and
yep.
everything. So I don't know if they gave you anything like from
I
the.
have a business card from one of the Secret Service people.
Oh,
It's like,
cool.
oh, it's one of the highest quality business cards I've ever seen in my entire
Is it
life.
is it metal
It's
engraved and
like that's
everything?
basically, but it had like this embossed and silver on it and stuff like that.
Nice,
But to
nice.
correlate that to you talking about media passes as we get, with the world we're living in, I was
Mhm.
talking to a table this weekend, I mean, at the restaurant about different things, and they had to bring up 9/11.
Hmm.
and they brought up how important that day was and so on and so forth. And I said the only other thing that I think is equal up there, like the most memorable, most tragic day in my life, and that scale was 9/11, right? You remember, we all remember where
Oh,
we
of
were and
course.
all
Yeah.
that stuff. But right below that is I was about to cover the Bruins game on the day of the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yep.
And so I was driving to Boston from where I was living in Haverhill, on, on the road, seeing these police officers flying by me going, what the hell's, I had no idea. I don't listen to, I don't just turn on the radio randomly. I was probably listening to music, or I was probably like zoned out trying to think about the game, like trying to think
Right.
about things to talk about and stuff like that. And but when I was getting my media pass and checking in to go into the garden, how you go into the
Of
back, and
course.
they normally, like, they used to like open your backpack or your briefcase to look at your laptop and like, yeah, you're all set. Like a quick check. Like, I
Right.
mean, come on, it's like they check so many people's bags, and
Right.
most of the time media is going to be fine.
Hmm.
So pre that, they do that. I remember that day, them pulling up my laptop, opening it up, like, as I was walking on the street up to the garden to enter it, there, all the trash cans were empty. Like, you couldn't see into the trash. Like, there's no trash bags. They opened them up so you wouldn't see.
Yep.
And they're like patting me down in the secure. I mean, it was like the most secure thing. And my ex-wife was like, "You need to come home now. It's not safe there." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this is probably the safest place in this area
Right.
because they're
Right.
checking everybody so thoroughly. And then we got into the dining room there, getting our dinner, and they then eventually said they're not going to play the game due to safety
Right.
concerns, and obviously out of the respect of the
Of course.
fallen and stuff like that. But like, that
Yep.
was probably one of the most surreal media moments of my life, was the
Oh my
fact that I was about to
gosh.
cover the Bruins that night.
That yeah, and you were right there that same day. That's
Mhm.
incredible. Ironically enough, too, Justin, we're coming up on the 8-year anniversary of that later this week, April 15th. So, I know we're recording on the 12th,
It's
but that's this week here.
Yeah, and
So
it might actually come out the day before, so it'll be tomorrow because this is going to come out the 14th. But
so
yeah,
there you
it's right
go.
here.
That's coming up 8 years. Imagine that. That's amazing, just the resiliency with everything around that. You're right, and that's another moment where you remember exactly where you were and so forth. And I was working for WEI at the time, and also Metro Traffic. That was the company there, but we were government center.
Mm,
I was working the morning shift, so I was out of there by 1 o'clock.
mm.
Um, the bombing went off around 2:45 ish in that time, so I was already home at the time. But I remember really well though, Justin, because I was playing golf with a friend of mine and his dad and Needham were playing, and my phone, people were texting me like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's going on?" Because you're playing golf, you get your phone
Yeah,
put away, and I just
yeah.
checked it after a couple holes or something, and I'm like, "What?" And then I see a news alert from Channel 5 bombing Boston Marathon, and it's just like, holy moly! And we were just all in shock and everything. And I remember the pro was driving around, and he was like, "Did you hear what happened?" And obviously we're all in a revenge mode for a
Yep.
couple of days to try to figure out what's going on here and get the people who did this. And yeah, the resiliency. But you're right. You just remember exactly moments like that, where and when you were at that time there, because essentially time does stop.
Yep,
Uh,
and it does, to me, it was like one of those things. Me living in Haverhill, I went to Boston
mhm.
for sporting events to cover sporting events. That
Yep.
was it. If I wasn't doing a sporting event there, and then unless someone was coming to visit me from out of state, very
Hmm.
rarely was I going from Haverhill to Boston. I was like, I can do what I want in Boston or in Haverhill. Don't need to be in the city that often. So it just happened to be the night, and it was the first Bruins game I ever covered. So it wasn't like a regular going there. I had covered Hockey East games at the Garden, so I know the whole process. But I was covering it for Inside Hockey,
Hmm.
and so they're like, "Yeah, come on down." And it was just so crazy. I was like, I was kind of depressed in the same sense, like selfishly,
That's
the game
amazing,
was
though.
canceled, so like
Yeah.
I didn't get
No.
to cover it. I ended up, and because I was only covering it because I think it was Scott McLaughlin.
Oh yeah.
He was not available that night to do it, so I was covering for him.
Wow.
And so Scott was nice enough later on to say when the game gets rescheduled, that because I was given the opportunity to do that, that I was allowed to go. So I ended up covering the rescheduled game, which was really nice of him. He didn't have to do that. But the same thing with you when the guy was in the hospital. If
Yep.
they ended up canceling that game, there's a good chance that person was back.
Right.
They would have been like, okay, the guy's back. We don't need you, Sarge. You're all
Right.
set.
Right.
But Scott was nice enough to say, "Hey, man, if you want to go do that game, you can go do that game." So
Right.
I ended up being able to cover multiple Bruins games after that. The ninth floor at the Garden is one of the coolest places I've ever been. I'll tell you that much. I
It's
love the ninth
nice.
floor of the Garden.
Yeah, it's cool for hockey especially, and it is far away, like you
Yes,
said, but it is a really cool place to watch a hockey game, and
you get
I
spaced
think
out and food, and it's a
yeah,
nice little area. Yeah,
right, and you know what? I don't think there's really for hockey for that matter. At the Garden, there's no bad seat.
no,
There's no bad seat. But for basketball, for wrestling, for a
yeah,
concert, you want to be as close. There's selective seats. Let's put it that way.
yes,
Right?
yes.
But yeah, it's anywhere for hockey, no bad seat.
But and we could talk sports all day. I mean, we haven't. So anybody who's listening too is we haven't. Mike and I haven't really talked face to face in probably four or
Yeah, I
five
haven't
years
seen you in a
because
long time, man.
I just haven't been around and so on.
Yeah,
So like when I go down to Massachusetts every once in a while, I'll meet up with someone, but like, we'll obviously have to now,
well, to change that,
post,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So post COVID and post me
Yep.
having a baby. But
And
I
don't
mean,
try to get
we,
any ideas of me changing no diapers, Justin. All right,
yeah,
I'm gonna tell you
exactly.
right now.
Seriously. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop him off at your place and I'm going to
Yeah.
go see it.
Well,
But that's,
my girlfriend would love that. She would love to she'd
see.
love to babysit, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Man.
but yeah. The funny thing is, like, it's like because we haven't talked in a while, and we both like to talk, and we both love sports. So I mean, there's times that like the spinners where we had to like, okay, nope, we got to stop talking. We have to actually do our job.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, because we're in the booth and everything, and
Like, okay, the game's about to start. Okay, guys, go in
right.
there. We got to sit
Exactly.
down.
Yeah. It's game
But
time.
yeah, so sometimes we just have to be like, okay, stop, let's do it. So,
Exactly.
but yeah, so we could talk all day, but you know what? I want to get to the bathroom at some point, and then I want to eat some lunch and stuff like that. But so anything else you want to like pitch right now? Anything else you're doing, or anything else you want to promote?
No, you know what, Justin? I got to tell you real quick. The last year, I had to adapt a lot in a virtual way with I told you about the sports memorabilia
Yep.
thing. So, parlayed it, which is a lot of fun for fundraisers. And we've done this, especially with corporate companies, hosted a lot of trivia events and music bingo for fundraisers and companies. It's taken on a full-time job of its own, a life of its own. So if you ever need that for yourself
Yeah.
or a company or whatever, we can do it virtually.
Yep.
I've got clients all around the country. It's amazing. So for fundraisers, it's a lot of fun. And just if you want a family night or whatever, happy to do that. It's a COVID safe environment. It brings people together. It's just a lot of fun. And I do trivia weekly Wednesday nights nationwide on Zoom. So if you like that too, but yeah, the page is Titan Trivia Bingo on Facebook, and the email titantriviabingo@gmail.com. But check it out right there on Facebook, Titan Trivia and Bingo. And I'm trying to think, is it Music Bingo and Music Bingo? But yeah, it's Titan Trivia and Bingo
Google
on the
it.
Facebook.
All
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, if you need me for a voiceover too, I can do it for you guys anytime too, anywhere. Hit me up anytime on Twitter at Sarge95. And, I'm happy to do that for whatever anyone who's listening for you or your
Yep.
business, your home, all that stuff. But I always appreciate hearing from people and get positive responses. And it's nice to hear that people are listening too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny is to bring it a little full circle. When I did my Mill City Sports, we did MCS Live, which is the pregame show we did for the UMass Lowell Riverhawks online. The voice of the intro and the voiceover of the intro was Mike Riley.
That's right. I remember
And
that.
I still think I still have the files somewhere. I have to figure it out.
Well, the heck with that. Why don't you find the script and I'll record a new one for you, Justin? All
there
right.
you go. See,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
but
listening to Mill City Sports.
see, it was something like it was honestly, it was awesome. It was really cool, and I love it. And it was you were ingrained in the
Yeah.
number of shows that we did.
That's how you do it,
That was
man.
on. They used to host it on Blog Talk Radio, which I don't even know if there's a thing anymore.
Oh yeah.
Because I think a lot of people do it either. Most people do it via Facebook Live now, or like
Right.
or
But
like
you know what?
Zoom and pre-record it. But
Yeah, and that's the way to do it. I mean, you can do that. You can do Anchor and
yep,
your iTunes and everything. Now,
yep,
everyone seems to have their own podcast, but it works. It's
yep.
great. So
So
there's so much
sweet.
content out there.
At Sarge, what's your your Twitter?
Oh yeah, at Sarge985.
Okay, sweet. Awesome.
Yeah. All
Well,
right.
man, I really appreciate it. Have fun on your next podcast and stuff too. We'll be
Justin,
in touch.
thank
We'll do
you,
this
man.
again sometime. We'll do a reunion sometime
I
with
would
some other
love to.
people in the sports industry. It'd be really fun. So
I would be disappointed if you don't ask again. So
Thanks, man.
thank you, Justin. Take
Yep.
care.